Hi everybody, it's Kim here from Kyms Homestead, and this week I'm bringing you another What's to Eat. Well, we have a reasonable amount this week. There is a lot of preserving and canning that's going along with it, so I do hope that you enjoy this week's episode. So, let's start it off. So we're starting off once again on Wednesday, and I just had an egg on toast with a bit of tomato, followed by 3 dim sims and half a Chico roll. On Thursday I start with the ever-growing mountain of tomatoes once again, and here I'm just cutting off the top bit where it hangs onto the vine and just checking it for any little hangers on like bugs, worms, fruit fly maggots, all that sort of thing. Unfortunately, it's part of the territory when you're growing your own vegetables. So I've got the chook bucket there nice and handy, and the good stuff goes in the crock pot and the yucky stuff goes in the blue pot ready for the chooks. At this time of year, the chooks get a lot, and you'll see that later on. My ladies get really fat by the end of harvest season, because obviously with the bugs and fruit fly in particular, a lot of food spoils and they get the benefits. But I get the benefits with nutrient rich chook poo, and hopefully very shortly some nice yummy eggs. So it takes a little bit to go through all these, but it is worth it eventually. And I've nearly filled up the crock pot here. There's quite a lot that's actually gone into it, and this particular batch I'm trying to make pizza sauce, so I want it nice and thick and plenty of tomatoes in it. Next, it's time to cook tea, and tonight I'm having buttered chicken. So I open up one of my Fowler's jars, and I can never get the darn tops off. They're really difficult. They're a good jar, but that's their only drawback. So these ones were actually processed with the bone in and their chicken legs. So I'm just going to separate all the meat from the bone, and once again the chooks will benefit from all the skins and the bone and all the juices that come out of that jar. The bone is cooked to a point where it's quite crumbly, so the chooks will be able to get right into the bone and be able to get all the marrow out of the bone, so it should be quite nutritious for them. And what's left over can be easily ground up into powder and then put back through the garden as plant food. So the next year's plants will greatly appreciate that bone in the soil. The meat breaks up fairly easy, so you've got to be careful when deboning it, otherwise you tend to end up with just all flaky pieces. And once again we're dealing with flies. Even though I go around the house and I spray and just about do the old Louis dance on the floor, there's still flies. You pull out a piece of meat and they come out of the woodwork. Now I've got to wash my hands here because it's pretty greasy stuff. In the meantime, I've got a fry pan on the stove heating up, ready to fry that chicken. There we go, all frying up, and in goes the butter chicken seasoning, and I'm just opening up a pre-done packet of rice into the bowl. It's quite hot, so you have to be very careful. In goes the rice, the chicken. This was a very quick, very tasty meal, and I even had leftovers. And there we go. Friday. Well, it was going to be a scorcher. So I went out into the garden early and picked whatever vegetables that were ready to come in. Also picked a nice big bundle of herbs. So there they are. Now I have to deal with them. Lunch was just carrots, dip, juice and a peach. That night my sister came over with a charcuterie spread and we enjoyed that. Saturday was just leftovers and a bread roll. And here I am, finally getting the tomatoes through the food mill. I also added some capsicum and onions. So that all went through the food mill. It really makes short work out of those tomato skins and seeds. My poor little crock pot has hardly stopped since the beginning of summer. And I'm putting it all through once again, and you see how much I'm getting out of it. Even the second time. And I do it one more time. It's a bit of a drier mix the third time, but I'm still getting some out of it regardless. And on this night, it was toad in the hole for tea. So you saw the sausages browning up. Now I'm just making a batter, and I used some of my sourdough starter in the batter. Time to chop them all up. That's the easiest way that I've found, just using a pair of scissors and a pair of tongs. Easy pleasy. Give the batter a bit of a stir, and out she comes. I probably could have had it a little bit more runny, but it turned out alright. It's just the batter was just a bit more crumblier than I would have liked, but it filled a hole. And the leftover sausage fat over the top for a bit more flavour. And time to put it in the oven. And now we're taking it out, and there we go. See, it turned out alright. Was nice and brown. As I said, it was a bit more crumblier than I would have liked, but it went down and there was enough for leftovers the next day. That with a little bit of tomato sauce, and that was enough for tea. Lovely. And on Sunday, I just had a cream of chicken soup with a bread roll for lunch. Then it was time to finish making the pizza sauce. God, the mind's gone blank. Here I'm just picking off a lot of the leaves from the herbs that I brought in. What I have here is parsley. So once I fill this little container, that will go in the pot with the tomatoes, the onion and the capsicum. Now I've got basil, and once again I'll just pull all the leaves off, so a lot of the stems and that, they won't cook down. Right, now the container's full. Time for it to go in the pot. And as you can see, the pot's getting quite full. But once the herbs wilt down, they'll all fit in the pot. Now it's time to put it all through the mill. It's all been cooked down. So the whole lot, holus bolus, herbs, everything goes through the mill. Unfortunately, my stick blender is playing up, so it looks like I might have to buy a new one, unfortunately. The one I've had for about 20 years. So it's done a good job, and it's been worked to death, literally. So I filled up the food mill, and the herbs and that got stuck under the plate, so I've had to pull it all out and work on it a bit and try to unglue it. I think I stuck too many herbs in and expected it to go through. It's a very simple setup. But once I get it going again, it works like a charm. I just have to poke it down every now and again. It goes by pretty quickly once you sort of get going, get into the rhythm of things. I think it only took me, probably a little over 5 minutes to get through the whole pot full, which isn't too bad. Considering if you had to sit there and squish it through a strainer, I think it'd take me 2 or 3 days to do that. That's how I used to do it. So I think the food mill was, tomato mill, whatever you want to call them, was a good investment. I went to my local bulk kitchen place, or warehouse, whatever you call them, and picked one up there. Not quite sure how much it was now. It's been a couple of years since I purchased one. I think it was about $90 at the time, which I thought was quite dear actually, but considering that I'd only be using it like about once a year maybe. But no, I think the amount of time it saves, and if you don't like pulp or pith or whatever in any of your food, it's not just for tomatoes. I think I'll be running some of the mulberries that I've got in my freezer out in the shed through it this year, trying to get out some of the seeds in that. That's what I don't like about mulberries, is the little hard seeds in it. All done and ready for the first lot of dregs to go through again. And this lot I only put back through once. I was having a hard time with all the fibrous matter that was in it. So I thought, yeah, well, that'll do. You've done well. Now I'm about tomatoed out, so this lot of tomatoes is just going to be prepared and stuck in a plastic bag and in the freezer until I can be bothered dealing with it again. I really don't know what else to make out of it at the moment, and as you see, the chook bucket is getting quite full. and so are the poor old jooks. I think they're about tomatoed out too. Once again, I'm just topping them, going through them, make sure they've got no, mainly making sure they've got no fruit fly or other little bugs and nasties in there. Once I've topped them, I usually cut them in half and put them in the bag then. And there we go. One more bag of tomatoes down. In the freezer they go. Clean my workspace. Now it's time to deal with the zucchini. I have 2 huge big canoes I've got to deal with, plus there's about 4 small ones. So it's time to bag it up and put it in the freezer for later use. First of all, I have to put my little chopper together. There's one canoe. There's the other canoe and 4 other little ones as well. So we'll start with the big one, shall we? This one, the skin's gone hard, so it has to be peeled as well. The other big one, I took out all the seeds. This big one here, I'm going to slice out the seeds. The others I didn't bother because the seeds really hadn't formed at all as yet. It's easy just to slice them out and they'll go down in the compost in the chook pen. And there we go, turning it into shredded zucchini. That big one filled up that whole container. I think I got 3 bags of zucchini out of it, so that was 6 cups of zucchini in just that one fruit. Time to label them up. Always put your label and a year. Now, got to get out the legs. these handy little devices that at least hold the bag open. I didn't know whether I'd have enough for the third one, but I managed to scrape enough together. It had its 2-cup measurement. Then I squeezed as much air as I could out and sealed it. And this one here, this jug was the other large zucchini and 4 small ones. So it wasn't quite as big as the last one, but still big enough. And as you can see, it's got green in it. So the skins were still really soft. So I didn't have to peel it at all, which was good. Whew, well, I got to a nice 44 degrees again today. That's yesterday and today. So I've cooked up a heap of scraps for the girls. Let's get this shit out of the pan. That's from the cardboard. Don't need that in the compost. Now, sound that thunderstorm coming in. Wee. A bit burnt, but it'll be fine. Yeah, it was. Yeah. She's right. Well, the girls have got yesterday's chicken slops to get through as well by the look. Won't be a need to feed them for a day or two. Yeah, lovely clean water. I don't know why you shit in it every day. Oh well. Right, that's it for today. And as you see, it was just left over for tea. So on Monday was just a very quick salad put together, and the same thing for tea. It was really nice too. Tuesday, today I just had biscuits and Vegemite with a glass of juice. And I've finished off putting together this pizza sauce, and it was time to jar it all up and get it water bath canned. Now I water bath this for 15 minutes. Well, actually 20 minutes by the time because I forgot it for 5 minutes. So 20 minutes it was actually water bath for. And these are, I think they're not quite a pint. They're only small jars, probably about 250 to 300 mils, roughly. So I just put it in a jug, put the funnel over the top and poured her all in. You got to be careful that you don't overfill your funnel, otherwise you're going to get stuff overflowing. I'm just pouring off a little excess fluid there. We don't need more liquid in it. And mixing it all in together. And go through and finish filling up the jars. I eventually got 9 jars out of this, so which will keep me going for probably a couple of years actually. which is good. I won't have to worry about growing tomatoes next year with all the tomato products I've got on my shelf. So I can concentrate a little bit more on maybe some nicer salads or salad makings in the garden, which will be nice. A few less cucumbers, obviously, because what I'm getting out of the garden at the moment with those long white cucumbers, that plant is just so productive. It's unreal. And the cucumbers are actually very nice too. So, which is good. Probably I like them a little bit better than the Market More, which is like a long Lebanese type cucumber. The long white is more of a elongated apple cucumber. So now I've decided to make some no-knead sourdough yeasted bread. So in went a bit over 300 mils of warm water and a packet of yeast, instant dry yeast, 3 cups of flour, and I also put in a little pinch of salt and probably 2 cups of sourdough starter. So now I'm just giving it a good old mix. Now it's going to be a very wet, shaggy dough, so you try not to mix it too much. And here it just gets a little hat and goes to one side for the afternoon. It's pretty warm. And now I'm just feeding my sourdough starter, and it will go back on the microwave where it lives for another day. Time to clean up my mess again. Now it's time to put all the jar lids on. I had run out, so I had someone go down to one of our local stores and pick up some new lids for me. And once they got back, then they all went into the bubble bath. Now it's time to deal with the bread. I just flour the work surface a little bit, and as you see, it's a fairly wet, shaggy dough, so I've just got to use my scraper to get it out. It's not a dough that you can actually knead, it's very limp. It had almost doubled in size, which was really good. You get the rise from the yeast, but you get that lovely soury taste from the sourdough starter. And I just had to get some baking paper, crunch it all up, otherwise it won't go in the container. Put a little bit of flour down, put it on the baking paper and slip it back into the jug so it can get some more size to it, and clean up my mess. And there's our bread. It baked in the oven for 30 minutes on 220, and then I took the lid off the pot that it was in and baked for another 12 minutes. And tonight is just spaghetti, and I was just defrosting the meat in the microwave. In go the noodles, and here comes the spaghetti sauce. With a slice of fresh baked sourdough bread to go with tea. Very nice. And there is our spaghetti and bread. And there we are with the finished product. Well, there you have it. That was another week of what's to eat. There was some preserving, some cooking, and I ended up with 9 jars of the pasta sauce, so which will go up on the shelves, and they'll be there for probably the next couple of years, which is good because I won't have to worry about making pizza sauce anytime soon. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed what's to eat, and I'll bring you along again next week for another episode. So if you like this video, give me a big pizza-y thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, think about subscribing. That would be wonderful. Alright friends, I will catch you again very soon with another video. Bye.